All right. Welcome to the beginning of this week. We are going to be going over chapter one, which is the beginning, obviously, the beginning of our actual textbook. So we're going to start doing some textbook work now. If you have not gotten your textbook yet, that's okay. Usually, if you're in the 16 weeks class, usually the first two chapters, which will go over week 2 and week 3, I pretty much provide the exercises so that way students that are waiting for their financial aid to come in, or, just if you've had to wait for a paycheck or just some extra money to be able to get some of your books and things like that, I try to be, helpful with that just so that way people aren't stressing out about being able to complete their exercises. You won't be able to do the readings necessarily, which is helpful. And I do recommend that you do read your textbook because I go over, when I do these lecture videos, I go over some of the basic information from the chapter, but I try not to go into too much detail unless it's a section that I feel like I need to elaborate on a little bit, just because just from the past having students maybe expressing that they had some confusion about certain things, I kind of go over certain sections a little bit. But for the most part for this class, I do expect you to read your textbook to get the information you need for testing. I do point out sections and certain topics that you will see on your midterm and your final, so that way you are kind of aware of things to focus on. But for the most part, to get the information and to really be able to understand the concepts and the assessments that we do, you're going to have to do the reading of the chapters. So that being said, if you have not gotten your textbook yet, you can go to the school library and check it out for a couple of hours if you do want to do the reading, just to kind of keep yourself caught up. But as far as being able to complete the exercises and getting them turned in on time, I do provide those. So I did mention, if you're in the 16-week class, usually over week 2 and week 3 is when we cover chapter 1 and chapter 2, and I provide the exercises. If you're in the 8-week version of the class, by this point, you would already be doing chapter 1 exercises in the first week. And then in week 2 would be when chapter 2, chapter 3 would get covered. So I do still help out with the 8 weeks classes. I do still put out the exercises up to chapter 2 to kind of help students get caught up if they're still working on getting their textbooks. So, don't worry about that. Just kind of follow along the best you can. I do post in every single weekly folder. I post the PowerPoint that's actually from the Cengage website that's for the chapter, and it also is kind of a more abbreviated version of the topics of the chapter, but you can look over that PowerPoint as well if you want something more, if you're the type that likes to read information more than hear it. I'll talk about it, you can hear the information, but if you'd rather read it, you can also look at that PowerPoint that's posted, and it'll be posted right underneath this lecture video in the weekly folder, and you can glance over that as well if you want. Let me see if I can figure out how to get this off of here. I don't know if that'll work. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to basically do my lecture videos like this with this application that I got, so you can kind of see my face. I'm going to kind of pull things up and show you different things. And then if there's anything that's within the classroom that I want to point out to you at the end of the lecture video, I'll basically minimize this screen so that way you can actually see what's going on in the background if I'm going through anything in the class. So basically, just to let you all know, if you haven't gotten your textbook yet, you're going to want to get the Focus on Community College Success. It's by Constance Staley, and it's the fifth edition. So if you see older editions for sale, that of course they'll be cheaper, but I will let you know that the exercises are not all the same in the fourth edition. So I've had some students that went and picked up the fourth edition because they got it for cheaper, and they ended up submitting several wrong assignments because they did update the textbook and they did switch some things around. They put new exercises and things in the textbook as well. So not all of them are going to line up. So please get the fifth edition, because you're probably going to have some issues if you try to get an older edition, that you're not going to have the same exact exercises. So just letting you know that. And then at the beginning of every chapter, the way that this textbook is set up is usually at the beginning of every chapter, they have what's called a challenge case. And it's basically a fictional student, but it's a situation or a scenario that a student is going through. And it's kind of intended for you to read this little section. It's just usually 2 pages where you're kind of reading this scenario that a student is going through. And it has something to do with, some issue that they're having with college classes or being motivated, or, other things going on in life. And it's kind of a good primer to get you set up for what you're going to be reading in the chapter. So you may want to read over those before you start doing your reading, just to kind of see what these scenarios are. And, to be honest, probably some of you are going to actually really relate to some of the scenarios because it could be something similar that you yourself are going through. So it's kind of a good little primer to get you started in the chapter. And so I don't even know if I showed you that. I probably did, but basically the challenge cases look like this. It'll show a picture of a student and it'll just be over 2 pages that kind of gives you like a little scenario. And then basically it just goes right into the chapter. So chapter 1 is going to start on page 4. And usually, like I said, I'm going to kind of just briefly go over some of the things that I think are important for you to focus on in the chapter, and also things that you'll find on the midterm that would be coming up around week 8 if you are in the 16-week class, and around week 4 if you are in the 8 weeks class. So basically chapter 1 is kind of the introduction to, okay, so you're in community college, basically kind of a primer to why this class is a good idea for you to take, because some people do come into this class with a little bit of a negative attitude because maybe they're being told they have to take this class if you're on academic probation, or maybe it's just an elective that you chose, or if you're maybe incoming freshman and they want you to take it because it's just kind of to give you an introduction to these are the expectations of college. These are some things you could potentially learn more about yourself to help you be more successful. And then we also get a lot of students in our class that are returning to college because maybe they went into the workforce after high school. Maybe they tried college right after high school, but it wasn't for them at the time. And they decided to just go straight into the workforce, and they'd been working for many years. And then, maybe they got the type of job that there was a benefit to them now to go back to college because maybe they could get a raise, maybe just for them, a goal that they wanted to actually go back and finish what they had started and they never finished it. So sometimes we have returning students that haven't, been in school for a long time. And this class is good for a lot of different reasons. It kind of gives you a lot of good pointers on things that you can do that maybe you hadn't been successful in before, but it's giving you good pointers. Maybe some of the assessments and the things that we do that teach you a lot more about yourself, about your learning style, about your strengths and intelligence, because everybody has all of these different assets about themselves, but they don't always know how to tap into them correctly in order to really be able to benefit themselves. And so that's what this class is about. So try your best throughout this class to keep a positive attitude. You're not going to love necessarily everything about this class, but try to take the information that is good for you, take that and utilize it. And some of it maybe you already know, or some of it maybe you're not that interested in, but try your best to just, keep going, stay positive. It's going to make it better if you can do that. That's good advice for any class in college, is just to try to stay as positive as possible. Don't negative talk about it, or, negative in your mind, like, I hate this class. I don't like the professor. I don't like this. I don't like that. Because the more negative you are, the more it's going to make you apprehensive to just continue on and keep pushing yourself to get through it. But basically, that's kind of the first chapter. It's just going over information like that. It's talking about community colleges in general. Why is it a good idea for students to attend a community college rather than just going to a 4-year university right away? And there's a lot of benefits to it. Cost. Sometimes it's more accessible because a lot of times the community colleges are closer to people's homes than having to travel to a 4-year college, which sometimes they're in a town that's much further away. A lot of times the classes are smaller, so you get a little bit more one-on-one time, or even in an online setting, you're going to get a little bit more of that interaction with the professors usually in a community college setting, because in general, the classes are a little bit smaller and they're a little bit more intimate, I guess you could say. And then, when you go to a 4-year college, you could be taking classes where you're in a lecture hall with 100 other students and the professor may never even know your name. So there are some cool benefits to going to community college. And yes, as I mentioned already, the cost a lot of times is one of the major perks, because if you can get all of your general education classes out of the way at a community college and it all transfers into a 4-year college, if you do decide that's what you want to do from here, you've probably saved yourself a lot of money by doing that rather than just starting out right away at a 4-year college. One section that we're going to talk about, I kind of skipped through. I just kind of did that little introduction. I'm on page 8 now in the textbook. And the first real section that you need to focus on, that you really, when you're doing your reading, make sure you're really looking at this section. It's talking about academic professionalism, because there's a professionalism in a sense for pretty much anything you do in the workplace. At school, there is basically a set of expectations of behaviors, things that you can do that are going to be helpful to you in order for you to essentially be professional at school. So that way you're getting the most out of your school experience, but you're also helping yourself, kind of get through the tough times, do things that basically they're habits and things that you can do that are going to be more helpful to you if you do display academic professionalism. So definitely read through this section in detail. It goes from page 8 and then it goes all the way to the top of page 11. So there's basically, it's going to have it broken down. There's 10 different, I guess you could say, the rules of academic professionalism. So read through those. You are going to see a question on academic professionalism. Actually, you might see more than one question on this section on the midterm. And it actually kind of keeps going into a little bit more detail. After you get to page 11, it's talking about academic professionalism and how you can help yourself succeed. And that can be anywhere from things like developing a degree plan. Like if you do know what your major is, but maybe you haven't really planned out how you're going to take your classes, because if you actually plan things far out in advance, you're going to have a much better idea of ways that if you need to manipulate your classes, because maybe a class is full, you're not just kind of flying by the seat of your pants, if that makes sense. Like having a degree plan and really planning out your coursework will actually be very helpful to you. And it's also going to help you understand what you need to do in order to get out, to graduate. Because if you were like me, I didn't plan my courses out. I guess I assumed that my advisor or somebody was just going to kind of guide me through and get me through college in 4 years. Because I went to a 4-year university as my first experience, and it was tough because I wasn't prepared for really what I needed to do in order to kind of see that end goal. It just seemed never ending. Like I was never done. Like there was always another semester, and I never really had planned it out to really see how long it was going to take me, how many semesters it was going to take me, if I was assuming I was passing all of my classes along the way and not having to retake any of my classes. But basically I never did that. And I really think I honestly cost myself more time, where I actually had to take probably more classes than I needed to. And also just didn't really see that end goal. And that's helpful to a lot of people, to really be able to see when the end is going to be and how long it's going to take, and really understand and be able to visualize that. So it's talking about that, making a degree plan. And then the other section, as you're moving on in your reading, is talking about advising mistakes and really common mistakes that students make regarding their advisors, whether it be, taking too long to really go and visit an advisor and really understand, map out, plan your coursework, things like that, and really get to know that advisor and make sure that you mesh well. Because sometimes you'll get an advisor, maybe you don't mesh very well, maybe they're not helping you along the way like you think that they should be, because it happens sometimes. Some advisors, they're going one way, you're kind of thinking of things a little bit differently. And it's important to have an advisor that you feel like they're listening to you, they're understanding, what you want to do, or if you need to reschedule a class, or maybe things are starting to get piled on because you work full time while you're in school, and maybe your advisor's trying to get you into too many classes because they're not really listening or understanding that you don't want to take on that much right now. So it is important to meet with your advisor, do it early on. Not procrastinate about that, not skipping your prerequisites. There's all kinds of things that your advisor can help you with along the way to make sure that you're taking the appropriate classes that you need to prepare you for another class upcoming, the prerequisites, things like that. And basically, like, another good pointer that's in here is not ignoring problems, because a lot of people do that. Like if a problem comes up, whether it be with their class, scheduling, anything like that, a lot of people just tend to like kind of stick their head in the dirt, and they don't want to, basically solve the problem. They just kind of try to ignore the problem. I don't know if they just hope it magically goes away if they ignore it. And a lot of people do that. I know some of you watching are probably going, oh, no, I would never do that. I'm going to go tackle this problem. And there are definitely go-getters, but there are a lot of people that they tend to ignore problems, and that will catch up to you. They will not magically go away in college. Those problems will catch up to you, and you need to take care of them as soon as possible. And that's what your advisor is supposed to be there for, to help you with. And then I'm on page 14 now, and there is a section that's talking about computing your GPA because a lot of people surprisingly don't understand how to actually be able to compute their own GPA. They just, I guess, wait till the end of the semester, they see what their GPA is, or they, see what grades they get, but they don't actually know how those grades, the points that you receive for those grades, how that ties into what your eventual overall or cumulative GPA is going to be. So I would really recommend reading through that section and kind of understanding how it is that your GPA gets computed. And you can actually learn from this section how to do it yourself if you're trying to kind of keep up with it, making sure that everything looks the way that it's supposed to on your transcripts and all of that. And moving on to page 15, there's a section that's talking about mastering the syllabus, which is very important, surprisingly. If you're not in a class where the professor is going over the syllabus on the first day of class, a lot of people don't read their syllabus, and you have to. Your syllabus with your professor is the contract that you have with them in the class. And if you didn't read the syllabus and understand the class policies, the way that grading is going to be done, late grades, attendance, all of these kind of things, if you didn't read the syllabus and actually understand what the expectations are from that professor, and let's say you think you're right about something and you decide to go take it past the professor, maybe you're going to go see the dean of the college and say, this professor took points off because I wasn't able to attend 2 days of class, and I don't agree with that. I don't know why I have points missing. But if that professor had in their syllabus that, you will get points taken off for each absence, or if you have more than one absence, you can't really contest that because they put it in their syllabus. They basically put that policy in there. So you have to make sure that you're reading through all of the syllabus in every class that you have, to make sure that you are understanding what their policies are, so you know not to do certain things, like if missing class is going to cost you points, and things like that. You need to know that. So make sure you are reading through, the syllabi that you have for your different classes. I do the syllabus assignment that you basically would have done in that very first week of class because I want students to read the syllabus and understand it and kind of use that as almost like a, where you have to go seek and find the answers. So you have to go through the sections and actually find those answers to get it right for the assignment. And I figured that was kind of a better way to make sure that students are at least reading some of the syllabus by having to do that assignment. But not all teachers do that. So, you have to be responsible for yourself to read the syllabus and get through it. And then kind of going through the rest of the chapter, like I'm kind of over on page 21 now. There's a kind of a good section to kind of pep you up about, toughing it out, what it's going to take to get through college, the good and the bad news, the benefits and obstacles that you might have to go through when you're in college. And then it just kind of says the bottom line through it all is resilience. That's the biggest thing that you're going to learn in college. It's not necessarily always all about just getting the good grades and getting through the classes. It's about resilience because you're going to have a lot of challenges throughout college because you have, things going on in your personal life. Some of you might have kids, families. Some of you might have sick family members that you're helping to take care of and you're working full-time or part-time and, your car breaks down. You can have so many different things that hit you during the time when you're trying to focus and you're trying to do your homework and you're trying to study for tests and you're trying to get things completed and, basically stay on track. And you can have all of these different life scenarios that just keep coming at you the whole time. And if you are resilient and you basically tackle all of those problems and get through it, that is something that employers, when they're looking at your resume and they see that you graduated from college and that you did that, it just shows that you basically had what it takes to basically stick it out because that's what they want. They want someone that's going to be able to tackle problems, that's going to be able to show that they can complete something that they started. That says a lot more necessarily than just what grades you made in college. Yes, if you're an engineer major, they want to make sure that you learned engineering and that, you're going to be able to be an engineer, but it does show a lot for a lot of different, various jobs that are out there. It shows a lot to an employer that you had that resilience to get yourself through it. No matter what other challenges came up, even if it took you a little bit longer than some other people to get through college, whatever, you still finished. And basically kind of finishing out that section, you read through that. And And it kind of goes over, why this kind of a class has a proven track record and why it is that people who take this class tend to go on from here and do better in college. If they really try to absorb some of this information and utilize it, it's very helpful to you. And yeah, I mean, this chapter is just kind of an introductory. So the one thing that we are doing in this chapter that is an exercise assignment, it's exercise 1.1, and I'm going to flip back to it real quick so I can give you the page number that's on there, because if you already have your textbook, you can go ahead and do it in your textbook if you want. Otherwise, you will see the attachment that I put in the assignment folder that you can use. It is on page 7 in our textbook, and it's just a very kind of a short exercise. It's just this one right here. And basically what you're doing in this one, you're just answering some of these questions about yourself. It kind of helps me. It's a good exercise that I have all my students always do, because I like to get to know everybody kind of like more on a personal level in a way. I do ask that you don't reveal too much information on some questions. There's some things that your professor does not need to know about you. Keep that private. But some people are very, willing to throw things like that out there. But basically, I want to get to know people as far as, because a lot of times I get to know from exercises like this, which one of my students, which ones have kids, which ones have families, which ones are working full time, which ones, and a lot of times I learn a lot about your goals, what it is that you're trying to do here, what are you doing in this class? Like, did you have to take this class? Did you want to take this class? Things like that. And I learn a lot about people from this exercise. So, I do like this one. And then the other exercise that we're going to be doing for basically the chapter 1 area, it's not going to be a textbook assignment. And I'm going to go over that in a second. I'm going to try to minimize this so you can see the screen behind, and then you'll basically be in the classroom. So let's see if I can get this working right. I'm going to move myself over here. So basically here we are. This particular class that we're looking at is a 16-week version of the class. So if you're in one of my 8 weeks classes, it might look a little bit different because there's probably going to be a lot more stuff on there, since we kind of had double things up in an 8 weeks class. But basically there's week 1. For this 16-week class, we're starting week 2. So here's exercise 1.1 that I was just talking about right there. So if you click on it, you're going to see, when you click on this and open up the folder, you're going to see that there's an attachment here for exercise 1.1. And so if you don't have your textbook yet, you can go ahead and click on that. You can print it out, fill it out, and then basically here are the files that I can accept. So once you fill this out, whether you do it in your own textbook or you print this out and fill it out, on paper, basically you can either use your smartphone, you can take a picture of it, just make sure you get the whole entire thing so I can see the entire page. And make sure it's legible, make sure it's not blurry, make sure that when you take that photo, I can actually see everything on the photo, because then you can upload it to this assignment folder. And it should blow it up for me so I can see it, more on a bigger scale. But you can take a picture of it. If you have a scanner at home, you can scan it if that's easier, because a lot of times that gives a good quality picture that you can upload. And then let's see, so PNG, JPG, and then JPEGs, those are all different picture files that I can take. And then sometimes there are people that are way more tech savvy than me that can figure out how to put things like on a Word document or whatever. You could even potentially, if you wanted to, you could even open up the exercise. And if you have Microsoft Word and you just wanted to type out every line and then your answer, you can do that too. That's fine. Whatever is easier for you and makes more sense to you, just do it that way. I just ask that if you write it out by hand, whatever it be, whether you're writing on your exercise in the textbook or writing on this attachment, after you print it, just make your handwriting as legible as possible as well. I mean, I did used to work for doctors, so I can read some pretty terrible handwriting, but just, try your best to make it somewhat legible so I can actually see the words and know what it is that I'm reading. So that's basically all you're going to do for exercise 1.1. It's pretty self-explanatory when you see it. I don't really think I need to go over it in much more detail than that. And then the other exercise that we'll be doing for chapter 1 is actually a kind of a career research assignment. It's not very long of an assignment. It's called Activity 1, Career Research. And this is more for me also to kind of see what it is that most of you are trying to focus on. Like, what is the actual job that you're trying to get or what career it is that you kind of aspire to, that you're hoping to get into. And you're just to kind of forewarn you, if you have a main career that you're interested in, great, that's what you're going to want to use. But also know that I'm asking you to look up a second career that could be, let's call it a backup career, a backup plan. So let's say for whatever reason, when you leave college and you start looking for these career opportunities, let's just say for whatever reason, there's not really that many openings in this specific career that you might be looking at. What would be your backup? What would be something else that could be a potential backup career that you would still be happy in, but that you could potentially look up and get some more information on it? So just have that in mind. Also keep in mind that I also understand that some of you are not necessarily going to already know what it is that you want to even major in. You may still be trying to figure out what you want to major in. You may still not know exactly what career you want to go into. But my guess is you at least still have some interests in certain kind of things that you find interesting, that you want to learn more about. And that's the point of this exercise. So you don't necessarily have to be 100% positive that you know what career you want to get into. If you're not sure yet, but you do have some interests in things that you want to look more into, this assignment is a great opportunity to be able to look up those careers and get some information on them, because the more informed you are, the better you're going to be able to decide, do I actually want to kind of go in that route? Do I really want to study this kind of thing that, to get into this career? Would that even be good for me? Because you may find just by doing this assignment that may not be a career you want to go into, and that is okay as well. So basically, when you read the directions here, you will see that I have week 2, activity 1. It's a Word document. So when you click it and open it, it's going to have the directions there on what you need to do. You can do this on notebook paper and write it out, or you can do it like on a Word document if you want to type it up. That is up to you. And then you would submit it the same way, either take a photo of it. If it's a Word document, you would just upload the attachment for your Word document here in the assignment folder. And then I do have this note right here. So anytime you click on any of my assignments, a lot of times the explanation of what you're doing is right here, but also there might be a note of me trying to tell you, look out for this. Please understand this is something that I'm trying to call attention to. So make sure you're reading these exercise explanations here. So when you open this attachment and you're going to see the directions, it says right here, number 3 is referring to job outlook as a projected percentage of growth or decline in the field in the future. So usually if you're looking on something like the Bureau of Labor Statistics and you're looking up a specific career, it is going to show you basically a projected outcome. So 10 years from now, this career field, it's either going to be expected to grow or it's going to be potentially shrinking. And that's good information to know, because let's say you still have another 2 or 3 years of college left. You want to know what that career field is going to be looking like in the future, because if it's going to be more and more competitive and less of those kind of jobs are going to actually be offered to people, you at least know in the back of your mind that it's going to be competitive and that you're going to have to really, probably try harder to get that job. You're going to have to get the good grades. You're going to have to, show that you finished college and things like that. But just know, a lot of people, I guess, for some reason don't understand what I'm referring to in number 3 when you look at the directions, what it is that I'm looking for. And that's basically what I'm looking for there, is that I want to know what the projected growth is going to be for that career that you're looking at. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics is going to be a good website for you if you're wanting to find information on a career. I'll go ahead and open this attachment just so we can kind of go over the directions real briefly. Oh, or maybe not. Chromebooks are a little bit weird. They don't always just pull things up the way that you should. It'll pull up for you, so don't worry about that. But basically, you'll see the directions there. We'll just go for that. I'm sure most of you will be able to figure out what you're doing there for that. But anyway, it's pretty self-explanatory. But if you have any questions throughout the week and you're not sure about how to do this assignment or anything like that, just let me know, send me an email, and I will try to kind of walk you through it if need be. But basically, that's the other assignment that you're going to be doing, is just a small career research activity. And there should be whatever careers that you plug in that you're looking up. Just make sure that you are taking down the URL for whatever website it is that you went to and you got information. You don't just have to use the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You can use other websites as well. Just make sure that you're keeping the URLs. So then that way there's going to be a part of the assignment that you need to actually put the URL there so I know where you got your information from. So that pretty much takes care of that assignment. And that's pretty much it for the chapter 1 information that you need to know. Like I said, in general, I'm going to try to keep the lecture videos pretty short, but I just kind of like to introduce for these first few, lecture videos. If people have questions or if there's anything that I kind of want to go over in general for the class, I kind of try to squeeze that in there as well. But it looks like pretty much that's everything that we've got covered there for week 2. So there's not a whole lot. It's not too terribly hard of a week. And then just also be aware, like I had mentioned, for this particular class, I had sent out an email just to let people know as far as grading goes, now that we're kind of getting going and the beginning of classes has started. I don't start grading any assignments until the due date has passed, which I mentioned, but just in case somebody didn't see the email. So whatever due date it is, basically, please give me at least a week after the due date to try to get everything graded and in, because some weeks there's going to be a lot more assignments than others, and it's going to take me a bit to get them all graded and get them all submitted. So please at least give me a week. In general, I can pretty much get everything graded within that week after a due date has passed. And then, if for some reason it's going to take me a little bit longer, then basically I'll send an email to everyone to let you know if something comes up. Cause I have life too, and I have children and I have family and I have craziness going on in my life as well. And there are occasions that sometimes I can't necessarily get everything graded and finished within a week. So I usually will send an email and let you know that it's kind of taking a little bit longer, and just, hang in there. I'm trying to get everything graded. I try to do it as quickly as possible, but I have to work around other schedules as well. So, all right. Well, if you have any other questions, just let me know. And that is about it for chapter 1. So, all right.